What if I told you there's a substance so powerful it can alter your perception of reality? And it's been hiding in plain sight for over 800 years. Listen, the quiet rhythm of a bamboo whisk kneading matcha in a ceramic bowl. That's Tea Master Randy Channell Soei, perfecting a ritual he's practiced for decades. What he's making isn't your typical Starbucks green drink. It's authentic matcha, and it's causing a global frenzy.
Come with me to buy matcha in Japan.
Me and my friend Seth ordered from this Japanese company that specializes in
There's definitely a matcha shortage on popular brands, so I thought I'd make a little
And it's
buy.
currently selling out everywhere right now because of TikTok.
Super popular matcha from TikTok.
In recent months, matcha-obsessed influencers have stripped Japanese stores bare, triggering an unprecedented shortage of the green powder.
Each person is only allowed to buy one big can and one small can. They will sell out within the first 30 minutes of opening. Then go visit Ippo.
But while social media hunts for the next viral trend, we're here in Kyoto to uncover something far more profound.
I haven't been to this part of Kyoto.
I have no idea where we are right now. Ran hotel?
No, hotel.
No, not hotel. Tea?
My house.
Tea?
No, tea. My house.
Okay, sorry. Beautiful house. A mystery that has fascinated and humbled minds for centuries.
The first sip should be an audible slurping sound that everybody should hear. I'll explain the reasons in a minute.
Welcome to Chado, the way of tea.
The sips in between, whether they have sound or not, is not important, but the last sip, to get it all up, you want to make sure you take it out.
Here, a simple bowl of matcha has the power to end time, shift consciousness, and transform your understanding of reality. But beyond the TikTok trends lies a hidden wisdom, an ancient practice that might hold answers to questions we're all asking in our hyper-connected, always-on world. How do we find stillness? How do we become truly present? In the silence of this tea room in Kyoto, we're about to discover why this centuries-old ceremony might be exactly what our modern minds are searching for. I'm Michael Motometti.
And I'm Vanessa Salas.
This isn't just a travel podcast, people. It's your backstage pass to the world's hidden corners. It's vibrant food and the incredible people you never meet on the tourist trail. For 3 years, we've been living out of suitcases and trading hotel rooms for street food stands. We're all about finding hidden spots, meeting the local legends, and tasting the flavors that make a place come alive. Join us as we taste the wild and the wonderful and hear the stories that only locals know. This is No Fixed Address, your passport to the world's best kept secrets.
So we visited Sensei Randy in his tea house, and remember we had such a hard time getting to it. It's in this crazy arcade in the middle of Kyoto, and an arcade is like a shopping center. And it turns out this is like apparently the oldest arcade in Japan.
What they mean by arcade, I mean, just for people that like can't even grasp it, is just this like, I would say, 30-foot tall buildings on both sides covered by an awning in the middle that goes forever. Okay. So it's not like your average market or mall. Like it looks like an indoor-outdoor space. It looks like people live upstairs and they have their shops downstairs. Probably it's a safe bet to assume that tourists don't go there to shop, right? There's a bunch of markets in Kyoto that people go to for the flashy strawberries dipped and wagyu on sticks and yada, yada, yada. This was nothing like that. This was like bare bones, like chicken hanging, piano sets, shorts from like 1982. Like, I don't know. It was definitely an experience in the real Kyoto.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Nishiki Market, to say, is also in a shopping arcade, and that's a really touristy arcade.
But completely different. I mean, everyone goes in Nishiki,
different.
and everyone's waving their hands and they're shouting and blah, 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 yada, yada, and it's very cool and very fun. This was quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. This
right?
is different.
Like
This
when
felt
they
more
talk about
local, more family
and when they talk
owned.
about like Japanese silence, that's what it was like to me. You know what I mean? Because there was a lot of people in there, but
Mhm.
you could still hear a pin drop. Like it wasn't like, oh my God, people are shouting and telling you, try this, try that. No, this was like authentic. This is where the locals go to find clothes, to find food, to find whatever they need.
And so his shop is in this place. And it's like a 100-year-old house that he's transformed into this beautiful Japanese tea shop. And then when we went in, there are these scrolls on the wall that later he explained that he had picked them specifically for our visit. And it said, I'm not going to say the Japanese, but it translated to harmony, respect, purity, and tranquility.
Yeah, and that just reminded me of how much I loved Randy. You know, he was like super himself, and his journey is like probably one of the most, I would say, unique journeys I've ever heard in my life. I mean, leaving Canada and going to Japan, falling in love with Japan, and then becoming a tea master. That somebody can expert something so well that the princesses and diplomats of Japan literally hire him to go do tea ceremonies in places where no one else speaks English. And then for him to go in and tell us why he was so enamored with tea and he left his martial arts for it, he said it was much harder, much more dedication. I said, tea? Like it's harder than martial arts?
That's what I'm saying, on TikTok and on all social media, we kind of see this like glimpse of matcha and of tea, and it's such a deeper world with so much history and so much meaning behind it.
Power.
Power. Yeah, it's wild. But I wanted to tell you that this shortage that's happened on TikTok, it's actually statistically in Japan, they're drinking less matcha. It's people from the United States that are causing this shortage, so much so that they don't have enough until the next year's harvest.
Well, I'm going to feel bad now after this podcast because after this podcast and talking to Randy, I actually do want matcha. You know, I'm not much of a trend follower. So when they say, oh, matcha is this, matcha that, by the time it gets to me on TikTok or on Instagram, it's like, oh, this is just a cool thing. You know, like some
It's been cool for like 3 years.
Yeah, some influencers doing it and they love and by the time it gets to me, Starbucks has a matcha drink, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that once you really understand why matcha is matcha and the power behind it, whoa, it's a whole different beast. And that's why I love this podcast. You know what I mean? Because there's so much to understand about it that you can't even do it in 1 hour. Right?
No. Oh my God.
But
Randy's
isn't
been
like
at it for 30
everything like
years.
that? Like,
Yeah,
isn't
if you go deep
everything
enough.
so interesting? Life is so cool like that. Like we most of the time we're living life on the surface of things, right? Coffee is coffee, matcha is matcha, whiskey is whiskey. You know, like it's like, no, like if you really, really go down that rabbit hole on any topic that you can imagine, where it originated from and how it got to you is absolutely fascinating.
And if you like these kind of deep talks and appreciation for subjects that you might otherwise take for granted and people that you might otherwise take for granted, subscribe to our podcast, listen to our episodes, and we go deep with a local that has an expert knowledge on something that will just blow your mind. Like matcha, I will tell you, I've had matcha many times before, never in Japan until this day. And after this day, I'm such a fan. I hated it. Now I love it.
Well, let's get into it, please.
Okay, so Randy Channell Soei is pretty much the last person you'd expect to find as one of Kyoto's most respected tea masters. A Canadian martial artist who landed roles in over 16 action films before discovering his true calling in the way of tea. After years of dedicated study, he achieved something almost unheard of, becoming one of the few non-Japanese citizens awarded with the title of Tea Master by the prestigious Urasenke School. Since then, he's been deepening his practice, growing his own matcha, and teaching as a professor. He's got his Japanese cafe in Kyoto. It's called Ranhote. This interview was recorded on the second floor of that tea house. Randy made us a bowl of matcha in that beautiful, ceremonious way only a tea master can do. And it was just a tiny glimpse of what a full-on tea ceremony looks like. And it's something you've definitely got to experience once in your life.
Randy?
Yes.
Is Randy good? Is Sensei? What do you prefer?
But my name is Randy Channell Soei. Soei Sensei is what a lot of people will call me.
Soei Sensei?
Yeah.
Tell us where we are right now.
Okay, well, right now we're in my shop that's in Kyoto City. It's in the center of Kyoto, very close to the Nijo Castle, in a building that's about 1910. So what's that,
110, 13
12,
years, 14
13, 14
years.
years, yes, ago. And we're on the second floor of that building in my tea room.
Wow. And it's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you very much.
I mean, you just feel the history in the bones of the building.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to know, like, how did you end up in Japan? I read somewhere that you had an interest in Bruce Lee that
Yes.
led you to travel to Asia.
That is very correct.
Tell us how we landed here today having a conversation.
Okay. So we'll put it in a nutshell, or your podcast will become too long. And so, yes, originally I'm Canadian, and I came to Asia to study Kung Fu. And by chance, one of my friends that I was studying Kung Fu with was going to Hong Kong, where he was going to meet his wife-to-be. And so he said, I'm going
What
to...
year is this?
Oh, we're talking like in the late 70s.
Okay.
Like when Jesus was still a baby, a long time ago. And so I ended up going to Hong Kong, and there I started to study Kung Fu. At some point, I felt somewhat in an imbalance with my martial training. I did learn a phrase while I was in Hong Kong, Bum Bu Ryodo. And what that means is the martial and cultural ways together, somewhat similar to the American concept, the American military concept of an officer and a gentleman. You know, you don't want to just be a thug and beat somebody. You want to beat him artistically. So you need that artistic balance. And so to that end, I had traveled to Japan on several occasions while I was living in Hong Kong. And one time I came over to visit a friend who was taking a grading for kendo, which is using the bamboo sword-like stick thing. And it's kind of a seed was planted, and then I went back to Hong Kong. And then probably a couple or a few years later, I actually made the move from Hong Kong to Japan. And so I studied Kendo, Kyudo, Iaido, Naginata, and Nitoryu. What Kendo is the one that I just mentioned, where they have the two bamboo swords. Iaido is where you're actually using the sword. Kyudo is the bow and arrow, the Japanese longbow. Naginata is like a halberd. It's a long pole with a blade affixed to it. And then Nitoryu is a two-sword style of kendo. And so I ended up doing those. But again, as I mentioned, I wanted to come here to follow this martial and cultural path. And I felt my yin and yang weren't balanced, so to speak, by just doing the martial arts. So I wanted to try something cultural. Just by chance, the woman that was living next door to me was a teacher of the tea ceremony, or the way of tea. And so I went to her place, and she served me tea, and I was immediately enthralled with the quiet calm and the movement of the tea ceremony. I found that it was really very closely connected to the martial arts. The way we hold things, the way we move in the tea room, the way we walk, the way we bow, the body deportment was really, really quite similar. And so I was just, oh God, this is so cool. I want to do this. And it might seem a little bit polar different, the tea ceremony and the martial arts. But in Japanese, the martial arts are called Budo, which means martial way. And in the tea ceremony, we refer to it as Chado. And so it means the way of tea. And so they both have a way. And so this way often connects a lot of different cultural arts and different arts in Japan. And historically speaking, the samurai were very closely connected to the tea ceremony back in the day.
And you said, I mean, first of all, me witnessing what I just witnessed, we had just had a mini, I used like to say, the tip of the iceberg of his tea ceremony. And obviously, I am not an expert in any sort of martial arts, but there was a sense of stamina, control, balance that was happening when you were pouring this tea. It wasn't just, hey, let me make some tea for you and we can serve it and have a conversation. there was something beautiful about it.
Oh, thank you very much. There's a lot of concentration going into your movements in the martial arts and a lot of concentration in doing the tea ceremony as well.
I guess a big difference would be one of them you're trying to enjoy something with the other person, and the other one you're trying to kill them.
That would be in a nutshell, yes. Or trying not to die yourself. Yeah, no, for sure.
You mentioned the word Chado, and the
Yes.
research that I have done has said that everything begins here in Kyoto.
Yes.
And, outside of the rest of Japan, this is kind of the birthplace of Chado, and it kind of spreads from here.
Yes, that's correct.
Do us a quick favor. I know you explained it a little bit. Tell us a little bit about Chado in a nutshell and
Okay.
why Kyoto is so important.
Okay, well, first of all, we have to go back to China because, of course, the tea comes from China. I'm sure there was generic tea in Japan, but they weren't using it as a drink, many centuries ago. And so maybe there was tea here, but it wasn't brought over until much later as a plant with plantation skills. And so in the beginning, it was the interaction of the monks going back and forth from Japan to China. They were studying Buddhism, right? And so they would start coming back with the tea to keep themselves awake. It was like a 6th century, 8th century Red Bull to keep you awake during your meditations. And so it didn't come into the form that we're looking at it today as matcha until the 12th century. In China, the Song Dynasty, we had the North and South Song Dynasty, and I want to say the North Dynasty is when the tea was brought over by a monk called Asai. And Asai was going back and forth to China for that, but he came over with the tea seeds, the tea, and the plantation skills and knowledge. In that short window of time during, let's just go out on a limb and say the North Song Dynasty, the tradition of drinking tea in China was using the powdered tea. And that's actually what matcha means if you take each Chinese character and put them, ma means powdered and cha means tea, so matcha means powdered tea. But it basically refers to the matcha that we use in the tea ceremony. Now, you can get powdered tea at the sushi shop, but it's not the same thing.
Sure.
That usually the fumatsu-cha or something like that. And
Chado
is the way of tea.
Okay.
And so at that point, it wasn't Chado yet. We're just talking about the beverage coming over and the tea plant starting to come into existence here in Japan. And here in Kyoto was where it was first planted. And so from that time on, 12th, 13th, 14th century, things like that, it started to spread from the clergy to the aristocracy and the samurai class, and then finally down into the general populace. But it wasn't until about the 500 years ago that it started to become more of a ceremonial way. At the beginning, it was more of a parlor game for the samurai and the merchant class to get together. Oh, look at this piece that I got. And we just have like drink tasting games and things like this. And so it didn't become more of an art until the time of Sen no Rikyu.
Why Kyoto? Why did it start here? Why did they end up coming? Was it
Kyoto
climate?
was where the imperial palace was. Everything was centered here in Kyoto until the Edo period. And so Kyoto was
Got it.
that's where everything
Kind
was.
of the Mecca of Japan.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Especially, I mean, still today for the traditional cultural arts, a lot of the headmasters or grandmasters or school traditions are based here in Kyoto for a lot of the cultural arts.
But there's more to just drinking the tea.
Yes.
There is something very, very special about what's happening within these four walls when we're drinking, when it's Chado.
Yes. While we're doing the gathering, we want to show harmony. And so we experience harmony first between each other, and then we experience harmony with nature. We experience harmony with the utensils that I've selected. And then, of course, purity and respect. As I'm doing the procedure, you watch me purify utensils. I'm showing respect to you. You're showing respect to me. And we want to get those three ideals, if you would, and then achieving those will help us open up to a state of tranquility. So you're trying to achieve this state of tranquility while you're doing a formal gathering of tea.
So the purity, the harmony, and the
Respect
are the three elements that, if achieved,
lead into tranquility.
lead into the tranquility.
Yes, that is correct.
And I guess what's fascinating to me is, and this is in no way to be offensive, but I think a lot of the audience would probably be thinking the same thing. It's tea.
It is tea, exactly. Well, having said that now, even Sen Norikyu, he says, like, at the end of the day, tea is boiling water, making tea, and drinking it in its essence.
Yeah.
But then, of course, there are manners to achieve these 4 goals. And so if you just want to drink tea, then, of course, you can just go downstairs, dip a bag in some hot water, and drink tea.
Yeah.
You're good to go. Or if you even just matcha, I do a lot of presentations where I teach people how to make good matcha. They're not interested in learning the etiquette involved in the way of tea and things like that, but they just want to make a good bowl of matcha. That's fine too. The fact that matcha as a flavor has spread internationally quite powerfully is a good thing, and I think through that, maybe some people, when they have a chance to experience the flavor, it might give them an interest in kind of going back to the roots of this. Oh, this is kind of cool, but I wonder what it was like, what it's really like.
Unfortunately, I think that most people are idiots, and that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, we hope so. And like I mentioned earlier, the tea that I use here is my own original blend of tea. And we have, in the way of tea, we have 2 kinds of tea. We have a thick tea and a thin tea. Today, what I served you was the thin tea. Now, if you're not
really, that was thin.
Exactly.
Wow.
So if you're not familiar with that, you would think what I served you was the thick tea.
I thought that was thick. Yeah.
No, the thick tea is very rich, very viscous, very much like I used to refer to it as green ketchup, but more recently I've
almost like a tomato soup or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or a little bit closer to the viscosity and the we say shitazawari in Japanese, mouthfeel texture.
Shitazawari.
Yeah. Shita meaning tongue, yeah? So the feel on the tongue, the mouth texture is more like a heavy whipping cream before you whip it.
It's interesting, but I will tell you this, on flavor wise, I still have this amazing taste that's covering my entire mouth.
Thank you very
with
much.
Matcha.
And
sometimes sorry to interrupt, but sometimes when I have matcha, and I don't know if it's artificial or not, it's bad.
Yes. And I was just going to point to that. First of all, a lot of places where they have matcha, they don't know how to make it. Having said that, if the person likes the flavor with sugar and milk and all sorts of different, that's fine. That's fine. But the proper way of having matcha, there should be a natural amami, which means a natural sweetness to it that I hope you experience, as opposed to the bitterness. Even here in Japan, the reputation of matcha, it's very bitter and we need sweets before the tea. That's not true. The tea, if it's made properly and is of a medium blend, even not even a poor top blend, I mean, just a medium blend, if it's made properly, it will have a natural sweetness to it.
I even feel a little bit of, I don't want to say the word milk, but like it feels that sweetness of milk that some milk has, that's the feeling that I have, that taste that I have.
It's good to pick it up because, as you noticed, when I whisked it, it was very frothy. And so it does have what we refer to as a creamy texture. And so that could give you
for
like
everybody
a milk
who
feel.
Hasn't seen what this beautiful ceremony, it's almost like whisking a old school shaving cream, right? I mean, you were whisking hard.
I whisk fairly quickly. Actually, we have what we refer to in Japanese as gyote, which are the top level instructors next to the Grand Master. And one of them said, I whip too quickly. It's outstanding, not meaning it's good that it's outstanding, but it stands out too much. And so
a little bit more understated a little bit.
Exactly. So I should
That's the Canadian coming out.
Exactly. So I have to slow it down a bit. But I figure as I get older, it'll slow down.
What rank, is there a rank that you have? I don't mean to be disrespectful.
Yes, I'm what we refer to as a professor. It's a kyoju in Japanese. I'm a professor of the way of tea.
I do want to touch on that subject that you were saying, that like tea is almost like the medium, right?
Yes.
It's this tool that's being utilized to have this relationship.
To bring people together,
Bring the people together, to bring that tranquility. And I find that a lot in Japanese culture, specifically when it comes to food. I find it fascinating because you don't walk into a restaurant very often in Japan, since I've been here a couple weeks, where people are not proud of what they're doing.
Oh, exactly.
Right? Sushi is a really good example.
Yeah.
Right? You, just like you said, you could just have raw fish on rice.
Yes.
Trust me, I've tried. It looks bad and it does not taste good.
Exactly. Well, it's the same. If we're talking about the way of tea, I mentioned to you that the formal gathering might take 3-4 hours. It serves the Japanese traditional kaiseki meal. And the kaiseki meal is probably the epitome of Japanese food. and has its roots in the tea ceremony.
The idea of the tea ceremony or Chado, I should say, having the implications or the outcome of harmony, tranquility, respect, and purity must have a pretty big impact on your own life and the way you look at things. Can you tell me a little bit how it's changed your way of, or your view on life?
Yeah, of course, tea has a very strong connection to Zen. And so we actually have a phrase, cha zen ichimi, which means tea and Zen are of the same flavor or of one flavor. So the connection of Zen to tea is very, very strong. Even our grand masters, each grand master will go and study Zen and receive a Buddhist name as well. Actually, my name, Soei, you call me Soei Sensei. The So comes from the Daitokuji temples. It means sect or sect, I guess. And A is the name that I was given by the previous grand master. And so oftentimes if you're a Japanese person, they'll take one of your Chinese characters from your name and make that into your tea name. This is So-A is my tea name. Mm-hmm. And so the A actually comes from the monk that introduced tea to Japan. Eisai is his name. And so the Grand Master gave me his name A at the end of my So-A.
Wow.
Or maybe he knew I was Canadian. He just went So-A. For sure, A. Which would be really cool, but yeah. And so I would like to think that I've become a more gentle, more well-rounded person because of it. Now, you ask my students when I'm shouting at them, they might not agree with you, but as a general rule, I think I'm not quite as aggressive as I would have been previously. Now, having said that, that could be just old age creeping up as well.
And that's that Zen you're speaking of.
I would think, but I'm not a believer of any traditional religion or formal anything like this. I don't believe.
Sure.
I don't believe.
Yeah.
I believe in right and wrong, good and bad, things
Sure.
like this. I have attended many Zen seminars and the things like that, of course, but it's not something that I do. Like I don't meditate every day, but be it as I am a tea master, not that I like to use that term, but I would say, yes, it definitely has affected the way I look at things from the perspective of beauty for sure. And then the relationships with people, I definitely try to be a much nicer person just because of the harmony that you want to create. There's no sense in butting your head against a wall if you can find some kind of harmonious way to clear things up. I think it's better.
How has it made you see beauty differently?
Just by sitting right here, you can see in the back there was a garden. So you have nature with the garden. You have the architecture of the room. You have ironwork. You have lacquerware. You have ceramics. You have calligraphy. You have flowers. And so all of these arts are connected. Actually, my book is on that subject. It's my book's called Chanoyu, Tea, the Master Key to Japanese Culture. And so it's there are so many things that are connected through the way of tea. And so it's made me be able to look at something and appreciate it more than I would have probably before. Oh, that's a nice bowl, something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly that. Like the process that goes into this ceremony or this chado, it's almost like appreciating, stopping and smelling the roses and seeing the beauty in everything that surrounds us.
Right. Well, that's exactly what it's about. There's one phrase that I wanted to mention that I should have mentioned earlier, perhaps. It's called in Japanese, ichigo ichie. Ichigo ichie, once in a lifetime opportunity, one time encounter, like we're doing right now. Okay. In English, I often explain it as a Kodak moment. Back in the day, we used to have film, shoot that film. That's it. You can't capture that shot again. Okay. Say for example, in today's case, you come back tomorrow at the exact same time. We set up in the exact same position. I wear the exact same clothes. We do the exact same thing. We can't capture what we're sharing right now today. Mm-hmm. And so that's what is at the heart of the way of tea is capturing the moment, being in the moment, not thinking about the past, not thinking about the future, capturing the moment.
It almost makes you meditate without you even meaning to or wanting to.
Exactly.
It puts you in this state of mind where you are.
I have a phrase like, when I make tea, what I want to do is I want to enter a state called muso, which means no heart, no thinking, no mind. And so I'm doing something.
Can you repeat that?
Mushin?
Yeah.
Muso. Mushin means no heart, muso means no thought. I would say being in the groove. Mm-hmm. It's like if you're good at something, oftentimes you're not thinking about it, you're reacting to a situation. It's there, it's in you, it's coming out.
You're just doing it.
Exactly. And that's why I often use Nike. Just do it. And that's the way it is with the way of tea.
It's like Jordan in his prime.
Exactly.
Or Kobe.
Exactly.
They're
It's like
just
being in
playing.
the flow.
They're
And that's what I call the way. Okay, so tea, the way of the martial arts, the way of whatever, judo, kendo, kyudo. It can be the way of running. Of course, you're on the way is road, so that could be it
The
as well.
ultimate goal is to achieve the way.
Right, exactly. And there are people that would say that the ultimate goal of the being on the way is what we refer to in Japanese as satori, which is enlightenment. And so that could be a goal for many people as well.
In any context.
In any context, yeah. But I mean, again, there are levels of enlightenment as well, same as everything. And so, I mean, you could be enlightened to one degree, but not to another. It's a continuing book.
And that kind of makes me think about this deliberate movements that are happening during this ceremony, right? I mean, I saw the napkin being folded in a certain way. I saw the mixing spoon being placed, or I'm not saying the right terminology.
Don't worry about the terminology.
On a certain side of the cup or the mug or the bowl. Talk to me about that.
I belong to a tradition called Urasenke. Our school will do it one way, another school will do it another, but they will have their reasons for doing it. Like, say, for example, Omote Senke, when they walk into the room, they will walk into the room with their left foot, and then they will walk 3 steps in a half mat.
Okay, for that specific example, why? What's the
know.
reasoning? There's
I'm
no
not
reasoning.
Omote Senke.
No, I'm saying.
Let me go to my school.
Yeah,
and so my school is you walk into the room and you cross in with your right foot and then go left, and there's 2 steps. So I have heard said that it's just an easier step, whereas you're making dedicated 3 steps as opposed to a natural 2-step kind of a deal. The wiping of the utensils, the purification. Again, the way that you do it is not important as the heart in which you're doing it from. And so, like I said, when I'm purifying the utensils, I'm doing them in front of you as a guest. What I'm doing is I'm welcoming you. Of course, all of the utensils are clean when they've been put out. But like I said, I'm doing it in front of you to show my respect and my appreciation for you to come to partake of the tea with me. And so a lot of the movements and things like that could be considered rules, but I don't want to call them rules so much as manners. And then to go to your question of why, I mean, a lot of them are very involved, way even beyond my level of understanding of yin and yang, the 5 elements and things like this. And so I would just throw it back to you and say, like, say, for example, when you're playing football in America, you only kick the ball once. Why are there other rules?
Mm-hmm.
And so there have to be a set of rules that people can follow to be able to achieve an element of either enjoyment or progression, something like that.
You said something important. You said it's the heart that goes into it. And
Exactly.
Putting that in relation to life itself is a pretty easy kind of understanding.
I think so. Yes.
Right? When I do something for my wife, it might be super simple, like opening the door,
Right,
or getting her favorite candy, or from when I go to the market.
Yeah.
It's not about the action itself, but about the heart that's going into
exactly. I oftentimes just refer to it as Christmas. It's not the gift, it's the thought that counts kind of an idea, and so it's that kind of a deal. Whereas, like I said, with these 4 ideals of harmony, respect, purity, and tranquility, we're trying to establish this really special moment between the guests, and we're sharing. I mean, we might meet each other every day, but this special moment that we're creating in the tea room is totally going to be different than our other meetings. And it's kind of, we don't have anything similar in the West. I often maybe make the comparison of a formal dinner, right? Like I said, we're all friends. We go out drinking every weekend, but every once in a while, it's nice to have like a formal dinner, either at a restaurant or you make something at home, And so you put on a shirt and a tie and a coat and just kind of dress up and mind your manners.
Mm-hmm.
On one end, I do feel that, kind of this, like you're giving me a gift, but it's like a very thoughtful gift that you've planned every movement. So it makes me feel even more special because I feel like everything's been practiced. Everything's been done specially for me.
That's a very good way to look at it because it has been. Right from the scroll that I selected to the utensils that I selected to the sweet that I selected to the food that I made, things like this. It's all for the guest. 80% of the pleasure for the guest, 20% for me. But then on the other side of that, I'm also very honored that you're here as being my guest, and I'm getting a lot of positive energy and feeling from you having to or coming to partake of what I have to offer.
So it's a give and take on both sides.
Exactly, 100%. 100%.
How do you? If you could talk to me about this, I was going to say you could talk to anybody that doesn't know anything about tea. How can I embody this at home by myself, enjoy it, or with my wife? What would you say?
You've already started on it. Like you said, you wanted to make your wife happy. You go buy her something. You do that. It's the heart of it that counts. And so, like I said, this element of harmony, respect, purity, and tranquility, it's something that you definitely want to put into your everyday life. And harmony, I think, is probably at the forefront of that, because if you do have a harmonious situation, then I feel that purity and respect come naturally from that. Tranquility, for us in English, tranquility is maybe a little bit easier to understand. In Japanese, it's referred to as jaku, and it's a little bit more difficult to explain, maybe just because I don't understand it well enough in Japanese to explain it. It's not a ooh kind of a hippie kind of a tranquility, but there is a peacefulness that is achieved through it. And like if you're a philosopher, if you meditate, you will probably hit that kind of a tranquil state at points. But to put it into your everyday life is just the aspect of going through the motions of doing it, and doing it with heart, as opposed to just doing it.
Maybe set aside an hour, 30 minutes, whatever it may be, to drink that tea with your wife.
Yeah, exactly.
Or yourself.
And because that's what it is at the end of the day. I'm glad you brought that up, because like, say, for example, if I come here every day in the morning, I put on my kimono, I set up my utensils, I boil the water, I put in the tea, I make a bowl of tea and I drink it myself. That's not the way of tea. That's just me practicing. What the way of tea is me setting up everything and with all my heart making the best bowl of tea that I possibly can for you. For you, for the guest.
For someone else.
Exactly. And then for the guest, with all their heart, to take and drink the tea.
So I'm not an observant. I am just as responsible. I have some responsibility in this as
exactly.
As
It's like I said before, it's interactive stage. You have your roles, I have my role, and then we have to work together to create this harmonious atmosphere.
I think you kind of answered my next question, but I want you to try to maybe say it in a nutshell. How does creating or making tea in the way that we're speaking about help us on an everyday life with patience, resilience? I mean, is it the process of doing it?
Yes, the process of it. And also, we have a term in Japanese called hataraki, which I would probably translate as improvise, because it's not a perfect world. Even while I was doing this, I screwed up. I'm hoping you're going to cut it out. You don't notice, so I didn't say anything. And so the ability to not fall apart when something goes wrong, I think that's very important.
Keep going.
You want to be able to cover it without drawing attention to it. Instead of going, oh shit, verbally, you might say it inside, but just and continue. You want to be able to not let things fluster you. I've actually made tea when the house has started to shake with an earthquake.
Wow.
Some people have been, and I just, okay, it'll help me whisk my tea better. Look for the positive in negative things. Especially in this day and age, everybody's a victim and everybody wants to do so many different things. But I think if we're just nice to each other and show that sign of respect and mutual respect, not just me giving you respect and you not giving back, but mutual respect. Respect, I feel, is something that's earned. Oftentimes, they don't say it's earned. It's, you respect your elders. Yeah, okay, but
your elder could be an asshole.
Exactly. And so respect is earned, but it's something you give at first, and then if you don't receive it back, you can adjust. But why can't we be friends?
But there's also so much more into it, I think, too, and everything that you've been mentioning on this conversation today. But it's like the practice that goes involved, the dedication that goes involved, the patience. That tea is not a fast thing.
No, it's definitely not.
Especially in a 4-hour ceremony. These are all things that it's the reason why I'm bringing them up is because it's fascinating to me that making tea for yourself and for another person can have so much impact on the way that you look at life.
Yeah. Well, if you allow it that opportunity, like you said before, it's just tea. Okay. And it's done.
It's interesting because there seems to be so much, it's obvious that there's so much pride in what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And also in this tradition that dates back, I don't know, maybe 500 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays there is so much noise out there. And what I mean by noise, I mean iPads, iPhones, TikToks, Instagrams, whatever it may be. And we're being bombarded with disgusting things all the time. And, being impacted by lobbyists and politicians and brands and marketing. How do we find that purity? How do we find that harmony in our everyday life?
Oh, that's in Japanese. We call this fanning yourself with the left hand, meaning I'm rich. I don't have to do anything. If I could explain that, I'd have my own podcast. I'd make Joe Rogan look small. But no, it's really, that would be definitely a personal way to do it. I mean, there are people that don't jump into the digital age with both feet.
But do you think tea maybe can play an impact on this?
I would say yes,
scale?
because I mean, the whole concept of the way of tea is our previous Grand Master of the tradition I belong to, Urasenke, the 15th generation. We're in our current generation, which is the 16th generation. The previous Grand Master, he's 101 years old next month. And still very active. He just came back from Hawaii. He's all over the world spreading the way of tea. He was in New York in January, I think, speaking at the UN. He's all over the place. And his motto is Ichiwan Kara peacefulness, which is translated would be peacefulness through a bowl of tea. And what that means is if we all come together into a tea room, we're not going to be backstabbing each other. We're not going to be talking about Trump and Biden and different council culture, things like this. We're going to be focused on the here and now and about this element of sharing and respect and harmony. And so I think that the most important point is to, if you're seriously wanting to, then you're going to have to put things down at some time.
Yeah.
You're going to have to turn
Put
things
it down
off.
and pick up a glass of tea.
Bowl.
Sorry.
A bowl of tea.
Having said that, in the summer we do use glass bowls. So,
Tell me about your wear right now. What are you wearing right now?
I'm wearing a kimono with the outer coat. It kind of looks like a black negligee. Is a jutoku. It's called a 10 virtue coat. It's a coat that I receive upon getting my tea name. I'm given the right from the Grand Master to wear this coat. And so it signifies a person, a man that has accomplished a tea name. The women don't wear this coat. If the woman is a nun, she will wear this coat. She will receive this coat. And then other than that, it's just a regular kimono. The kimono, of course, would be the proper wear for a formal gathering of tea. But if you didn't have one, any clothes that aren't radical.
Now, you said man versus woman in outfits. Is this predominantly a female mastery, or is this a balance between men and women?
Today, it's predominantly women.
Okay.
Back in the day, it was predominantly men.
And what do you know why that transition happened?
Probably the biggest transition would have been World War II. Prior to that, though, it was starting to change. When they started to bring the general populace more into the way of tea and started to teach tea, putting it into school curriculums, adding it to the women's colleges and things like that.
Oh, wow. So this is actually in school.
Yes, I teach.
You can study this.
Not all places. Some places will just have clubs. I actually teach a course at the Doshisha University here in Kyoto. And so, and there is an actual technical college of tea for the tradition I belong to. I went there for 3 years to study the way of tea. But yes, definitely.
How do you think that I'm just thinking about martial arts now. I keep going back to I forgot to mention, you have to IMBD this, man. I mean, you've been in some movies, you've done some pretty hardcore stuff and been in some movies with some really big name martial artists.
Yes.
How do you think that impacts tea now?
Well, for me, I think what it does is, as far as the training goes, not the movie side of it, but as far as the training goes, it was very interesting because all through my training, both martial arts and tea, the senses would say, in Japanese, would say chikara nuite, which means don't use so much power. Don't use so much power. And I'm like, okay, with the way of tea, I can kind of understand that. But with martial arts or something, I'm like, you need the power. But it was the use of power was different. You know, it's not like you're going to fight like this. You want to keep yourself relaxed and then on impact clench. You know, there's different fluidity and things like this. You have to have a tension and release. And so when you're fighting, you know that as well. But I think through the way of tea, I was able to understand that more. So I found that the martial arts helped my tea for posture and for many different things. And the tea helped my martial arts in being able to accept this power transition, I guess you could say.
Yeah, because I've been wondering, initially you were looking for balance,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
And that's how you came to find tea?
Yes.
And is it that you found so much balance that you just stayed in tea?
I think that's probably the best way to look at it, because originally, of course, not counting my time in Hong Kong, but the 10 years here of doing martial arts, then 10 years of doing tea, and then 10 years together just kind of fell by the wayside. Now I'm just a fat old tea guy, and I don't do martial arts that much at all anymore. So,
But how long have you been studying tea for now?
30 plus years.
Do you think you know everything?
No, God. No, not even close.
Do you think you're close to?
No, not even close.
You
What
think
do
you'll
you
ever
mean
get
not
close?
even close?
No, I think what I do, I'm good at what I do, which is to demonstrate or to perform.
Mhm.
I do this very well. But there are so many more people that are so much more knowledgeable about the way of tea than I am.
The Grand Master, for example, does he know everything?
Of course, he's the Grand Master. No, I would say that he wouldn't even say that he knows everything. Not wanting to put words in his mouth, of course. But I mean, I don't think there's anybody that can know everything.
You know, there's something, I think we touched on it a little bit when it came to sushi and it came to tea mastery in Japan, and this idea that in Japan there is a passion, there is a love, there was a respect for things that they do.
It's
right?
like this pursuit of mastery, you
Oh,
know?
definitely. It's very, very strong element in Japanese crafts. And it's not only crafts. I mean, even if it's a menial job, you want to do it to the best of your ability. I think it's a set of morals and values that are vastly different to maybe Europe and America and things like
Western
that.
culture.
Yeah, Western culture.
Yeah, 'cause I think
I mean, of course, that's case by case. There are
of
people
course,
that
but
are.
I do think that there is this idea of like, hey, get a paycheck and go.
Yes.
Right? I think what you're saying is that there is a sense of honor when it comes to performing a task or a job. And if you have the ability to do it and you have the, I guess, somebody has given you the chance to do it, then you should have enough respect for that person, for yourself, and for the customer, or for the person you're interacting with.
Exactly. Harmony, respect, purity, and tranquility. Is exactly. And so, of course, it's case by case in every situation. Some people hate their jobs and they don't want to do it, and they'll treat you with bad manners and things like that. Of course, that's just every culture has that. But I would say, generally speaking, you're going to find people that are more wanting to give proper respect and do their job well. Just recently, the margarita, the best pizza in the world, was a Japanese person, graded by Italians. You know, and coffee barista is the best barista in the world is Japanese. And so they have a very strong sense of achievement, and they can focus on one thing to make it so much more, what would you say? To make it more better, to make it better, you know?
Meaningful.
More meaningful, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I know what you're going to say to this next question, but I have to ask it anyways. For people who have never been to Japan, let alone Kyoto, what is a must do here?
Come to my shop for a tea ceremony experience, of course. Yeah, no, I mean, in Kyoto, you know, like you mentioned, it's Mecca of cultural arts here in Japan. There are so many things to do in Kyoto. Perhaps you've already noticed it. You've probably been to Tokyo, maybe Osaka, I don't know, but Tokyo and Osaka are metropolitan cities. There's a lot to do there, without a doubt. There are many cultural arts represented in both cities, but this is where a lot of it started. And you'll notice that Kyoto is really just a small town. It's a very beautiful town. There's a river running through it. We are surrounded by what they call mountains, what I would call hills. And it's very green and very lovely. There are thousands of temples. And if you come here, I would recommend renting a bicycle and just going around on a bicycle, because it's not very graded. There's a slight grade from south to north.
You can get to the whole city.
You can get through everything. I mean, say, for example, from the station to my shop, maybe 20, 30 minutes on bicycle. From here to the north, 20, 30 minutes by bicycle. It's centered here. So you can get pretty much anywhere. If you spent a day going around on a bicycle, going on the bicycle paths along the river, just for the nature side of it, and then going through the different neighborhoods on a bicycle, you'll see so many amazing, interesting little things without going to the touristy things.
Yeah, which
You know.
is, I'm in the same boat. I eat a lot of food.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Food is important. You know, you've got to eat good food. And Kyoto has a lot of good food, trust me.
I'll be honest, you radiate this message not only through your craft, but also in the way that you speak and the conversation that we've had today. Appreciate the moment. I mean,
Exactly.
That's what I'm getting from all of
Exactly.
this.
Well, and this is something that even before the tea ceremony, before even martial arts, I mean, like I said, I don't believe, but I believe in the moment. The past is the past. I can't change it. I can't tell what's coming in the future, but I can live in the moment. And
It's the only thing that exists.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm probably as broke as I am, and I don't have any coverage for the future, but I should have saved a few dollars along the way somewhere. But, like I said, you live for the moment and enjoy the moment that you're in. And that means being respectful and harmonious and, just achieving this state of tranquility through these three forms these three ideals that I mentioned.
So we do like to do a speed round at the end of every conversation. Okay. Just say your immediate answer that comes to your mind. Don't think, just say.
I'll try.
Okay. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
If not here, Thailand.
Why?
I love the culture and the food.
But Kyoto is your first choice?
Thailand.
What makes you happiest?
Serving people tea.
Okay. What are you most scared of?
Not being able to clear my debts. And I don't mean just financially.
Ooh.
I feel...
But what do you mean by your debts outside of finance?
I feel that I've failed people in certain aspects.
And you owe them?
Yeah. Even like, say, for example, my sensei of the bow, he was very powerful in pushing me forward and wanting me to achieve greatness. And because he saw something in me, he felt that I would be shooting for the Emperor's Cup. And I never progressed past that. And so I feel that I've let him down.
Mm.
And then even with my tea sensei, I feel that I have come to a certain level, but I still feel I could be much more than what I am. And I think that's what I mean by my debts.
Not paying back my debts, not just financial. I've never heard that. That is a freaking scary thing.
Well, that's what I'm scared of.
I mean, because it's so, not easy, but
yeah,
to pay back your finances, you file bankruptcy, whatever, do something, right? It doesn't mean anything. It's just money. But if you can't pay back your debts emotionally.
And like I said, the two major ones that I was concerned about, both of these people have passed away.
Yeah.
But I still feel that
you can never do it. I mean, what's interesting? The next question is, what is your biggest regret?
That. Not being able to make them, I don't want to say proud of me because I'm not into pride and things like that. To just not to be able to accomplish what they had set forward for me.
Live up to expectations of people that you admire.
Exactly.
And you respect.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Sensei.
Yes.
Thank you very much for this beautiful conversation, for the tea, for welcoming us into your home and to Kyoto.
Thank you very much for coming. It's a pleasure serving you. It was a pleasure being interviewed, actually an honor being interviewed. And I'm looking forward to the end product. And I guess we should close with the banging of the gong.
Oh, we have to. Please, come. Bucket list number 1072. I got to hit a dong myself. Wow, what a cool dude.
With a tea master, no less.
What a cool experience. I just loved every moment of it. And I promise I will not disrespect Chado by trying to do this at home, Randy. I'll just buy matcha and make matcha tea. Oh, man. Thank you for listening. No Fixed Address is presented by Matador Network.
Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. We release new episodes every other Thursday.